If you've seen my videos on here, you're probably aware that I'm pretty good at ignoring transphobic comments. They usually just kind of don't touch me at all. I know that I have so many loving, amazing, supportive people in my life that I literally just don't give a fuck at all what a stranger on the internet says or thinks about me. That's why it was so strange when this comment got under my skin, because this one also is pretty banal as far as it goes. Like, she's calling me an autogynephile. That's what AGP stands for. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically it's a reference to a long debunked, like, 80s theory about trans women from this one guy that's just his idiosyncratic bias about trans women. It's not borne out in any studies. And basically, the idea is an autogynephile is a man who has a sexual fetish for imagining himself in a female body, and the the idea is that trans women don't actually have any kind of like legitimate gender identity thing going on. There's all that's in there, all that's contributing to the decision and the desire ultimately is fetish and perversion. As someone who is a trans woman and is inside my own head, I have quite a bit of evidence that that's simply not true. So I don't, it's not like this comment makes me worry, right? That like she's struck on something real. I know it's not real. But I do think maybe, like, as I've forced myself to kind of sit with this feeling of why is this the one that's getting to me? I think what it does is it resonates with this old, long-standing but deep-seated doubt that stopped me from transitioning for so long. Because that idea, that worry, is this a sex thing? Is this just a fetish? That's a doubt that I imagine every single trans woman who, comes to accept herself and come out as a teenager or older has experienced. We've all had that doubt. We've all wondered, is this a sex thing? Unless maybe you're asexual, and then maybe you have no reason to wonder that. But the rest of us, I'm sure, have wondered it. I found myself reflecting back on a journal entry that I wrote in 2018. And the reason I could remember a specific journal entry is because I really don't journal. I only journaled for this summer, this one summer in 2018, when I was trying to decide, finally, am I trans? Am I going to transition? Is this what I want? Is this real? And the whole journal, the whole back and forth, entry by entry, even sometimes within the same day, is just this wild swinging of like confidence and doubt and confidence and doubt. This is from May 30th, 2018. Doubts creep and crawl like millipedes squirming atop an overturned stone. I'm in my head. Is it a phase? Am I caught in some obsessive loop? I know that I've been cross-dressing since I hit puberty. Not often, not well, but still. I know I've been imagining myself with a female anatomy since the earliest days of genital awakening, straining every ounce of my imaginative muscle to invert the sensation of my penis grinding against a pillow into one of a vagina being penetrated. Or to tell myself, as I masturbated in the shower, that it was not my penis in my hand, but that of a man who was standing behind me and sticking his dick through my legs. I know I've spent years sporadically pretending to be a girl or omegle. I remember the excitement I felt the first few times, the rush of thinking about a stranger thinking I was a girl, talking to me like I was a girl, and role-playing with me like I was a girl. It got to a point where I didn't even know how to be on Omegle as a man. Charlie was too hard a character to play. Charlie was awkward, unsure, graceless. Sarah, though, knew who she was and what she wanted. She was confident. She was sexy. She was also the pursued and not the pursuer, which felt nice. She was in the warped gender space of an online anonymous chat site, the one with the power. Guys liked Sarah. They wanted Sarah's kick or email address or phone number, though, of course, that was all impossible. But Sarah wasn't a woman. Of course, in the sense that I wasn't a woman, Sarah wasn't a woman. But even in terms of Sarah the character, she wasn't a woman, not really. She was a sexual being, first and foremost. The invention of a teenage male mind. The fantasy of what a woman ought to be, or could be, or should be. She existed to give pleasure to her partner almost exclusively. So what is Sarah evidence for, really? That I am sexually into the idea of being a woman? Of pleasuring a man as a woman? Of being penetrated as a woman? Of being objectified and desired as a woman? But that's such a male gaze blow up doll understanding of what it means to be a woman, and that's what worries me. What do I want? Do I want to be able to go into a store and look at pretty dresses and wear long, flowy, flowery things as I skip through the meadows, sticking daffodils into my basket? Yes, I do. But that's still this girl by men vision. I need to read Butler. Today, May 30th, 2018, how confident am I feeling in a transition? 6 out of 10. I still think I want to do it, but I'm scared of a few things. Scared that it will be hard. Scared that I will regret it. Scared that I will look like a man in a dress. Scared that I'll become an object of pity. Scared that my current desire is born of a fascination and obsession with the topic broadly and ContraPoints specifically. But I know it goes back. I know the tendrils are so clearly wrapped around my past. I know the doubt is likely just fear masquerading as reason, as it usually is in my rational male brain. But still, I'm afraid and uncertain. My life is good. I'm handsome enough. I'm respected enough in the communities I care about. I'm tall, I'm fit, I'm talented, and above all, I'm so goddamn humble. I have a job I like, and friends I like, and hobbies I like, and a family I like, and a life I really do like. Why risk all that? Why flip the stone? Probably the fact that I still feel like I want to make such a drastic change should be reassuring to me. This isn't a desire born of desperation or sadness. But damn it, I really could have been a good man. I had all the tools I required. Just, I guess, not the man part. It's a shame. I would make a much better man than I will a woman. A waste, truly. And yet I've never been able to imagine a future in any level of detail. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? Most people have some kind of answer, but I never did. I, as is my wont, tended to chalk that up to my superior philosophical awareness, my keen understanding of impermanence and the absurd and non-attachment and blah, blah, blah. But maybe it was just that I couldn't imagine the future for Charlie the man, because there wasn't a future for Charlie the man. Obviously, this gender fuckery is something I've known about myself for a long time. I wasn't asking Em, my college girlfriend, how she would react if we woke up one day and I had a female body just because I thought it was an interesting thought experiment. That was a serious question, and her obvious and visceral discomfort left its mark on me. I knew that whenever I was asked what superpower I wanted and I answered with transformation, I always made the conscious mental addendum, as long as that includes sex. I've known this for a long time. But somehow, despite knowing, I've let myself not know, or at least pretend I didn't know. I'm a coward. I'm filled with a fear of failure that permeates my every unact of non-doing. And worst of all, I'm smart. There's never been a mental or personal hurdle that I couldn't dress up in 7 layers of abstraction and thought until it passed for a perfectly reasonable and carefully thought through position, rather than a psycho-emotional disturbance. And even though I think I do a better job of recognizing when my brain tries to pull that shit these days, it's still the same damn brain, and it still tries its old tricks. So this morning, as I sat here doubting my transgenderism, as my brain began creating reason after reason to undermine the conclusion of a hard month of active contemplation and reflection, as it began its hypnotizing dance of then agains and what ifs and when you really think about it, that always look so seductively reasonable and yet always seem to lead me back down the path of inaction, no matter what decision is at hand. This morning it was important to remind myself that my brain has not always been my friend, nor has it always had my best interests at heart. So I have to not listen to my brain. I have to plug my ears when it calls out my history of moving from passion to disinterest: bread making, screenwriting, book writing, Japanese, painting, coding, woodworking. The list of my once passions goes on, and suggests that this desire too will soon fade. I have to do my loudest mental la la la's as it wonders if, just perhaps, this trans thing may have been born out of a desire to abandon the boring cis white male and put on a fashionable, more interesting identity that could give my empty and meandering life a clear directionality and purpose for a time. I definitely have to put on my headphones and start blasting 80s club jams when it asks if transitioning isn't a bit of an extreme response to what is quite possibly just a sex thing. I have to try to ignore my brain when it does this, because I know that if I try to respond, then I'll have lost. I can't out-reason my brain. We are, shockingly, quite evenly matched in that arena, and we could reason through the issue until I die, but my brain doesn't need to win the argument to win the war. My brain's pursuit is not truth, but inaction, and so an endless debate suits it fine. I, however, if I'm ever to escape eternal stasis, can't afford to wait until I'm certain, because I never will be. And I fucking hate that. I just want to know, but there is no knowing. No certainty, no truth. But then again, I can't just not think about it. Feelings can't be trusted either. Feelings lie, and feelings are short-sighted and selfish, and feelings often turn out to be other, more insidious feelings in disguise, so some level of analysis is necessary. But when I analyze, I overthink. I twist and scrunch and scrutinize. Do I like wearing the dress, or do I just like the idea that I would like wearing a dress? Do I actually wish my shoulders and my rib cage weren't so damn broad, or is it my active search for dysphoric attitudes that generates this awareness of my masculine form? Do I want to be a woman, or do I want to be a woman? Stop. You're letting the cyclone pull you in again. Don't. You know the trend of your life. You know the thoughts and desires you've been hiding for the last 13 years. You know. So just stop. Okay. But that's where it ends. So I think something about this comment clearly resonates with this idea, this easy intuition, self-undermining doubt. I think that a lot of transphobes have this idea that trans people didn't think through the decision they were making, as though like we didn't know we were doing something drastic and dangerous, something fundamentally life-altering, and given the state of the world, not usually life-altering for the better, at least at an external level. They look at us doing something they would never do, and they assume we must be irrational, or that we must have some fundamental degeneracy in our very nature, maybe a sexual perversion or an insanity, or clearly we have ulterior motives, right? They can't believe that a person would rationally sort through everything in their mind and everything they know about what it's like to be trans in society, and still decide that this is the best and often only decision for them. And yet, it is. So, no, this comment calling me an autogynephile doesn't instill any doubt in myself. It doesn't even, like, it doesn't hurt, you know? I literally don't care about this person. But I guess sometimes these comments can just, like a tuning fork, you know? They just, like, hit that resonating frequency of some past trauma, and I guess I'm glad I sat with it and felt it, thought about it, and found what I think it was resonating with. When I read this entry, this person I was 7 years ago, I just want to give her a hug, you know? She's about to make the best decision in her life. And I know she's scared, but I wish there was some way I could go back to that person and let them know that she has no reason to be. But I can't. That was a pain and an uncertainty I had to move through, like every other trans person. And we all have that wish that we could go back and just make it easier on our past selves. Transitioning is probably the scariest, hardest decision any trans person ever makes. Scary and hard because, again, they know their life is about to change. And there isn't a test, you know? It's a pattern, it's a self-understanding that emerges over years of just being in your own mind. There's often nothing really you can just point to and be confident that that proves anything. It ultimately comes down to taking a leap of faith. It's very Kierkegaard in that way. Well, maybe I'll go dig up my old copy of Fear and Trembling and start working on a new trans reading of Kierkegaard. But in the meantime, thanks so much for listening, especially if you've made it all the way to the end. If you did make it to the end, I don't know, leave a comment. Say how much you love Kierkegaard or something. I'm just curious to know, because this is by far the longest video I'll have ever posted on Instagram. And I really appreciate you. I love getting to do this. It doesn't pay money, but it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding to be able to just kind of think and talk publicly and engage with all of you and hope that maybe something I say resonates with you or helps you understand someone else's experience a little bit better. Anyway, bye.